Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horrorthon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
All right, Andy, my boy, before we jump into tonight's episode, I just want to take a moment to thank tonight's sponsor, which, of course, is HelloFresh. Do you feel like you're stuck in a dinner rut? Well, with HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients with mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip all those trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. You can now enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in 30 minutes or less. With over 25 recipes to choose from each week, there's something for everyone to enjoy. All of these recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. Go to the link in our show notes to get $80 off, including free shipping on your first order of HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit.
#1.
And away we go. All right, Andy, my boy, what's up, everyone, and welcome into another episode of America's Hometown Horror. My name is Mike, and you already heard his name. I am joined tonight by Andrew. What's up, pal?
What's up, guys? How we doing?
And not too bad. Another day in paradise, another week, another podcast, another movie to discuss.
Certainly is.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so another week that we are catless here in the studio, but not to worry, she is doing good, just has a lot of stuff going on, and she will be joining us, as always, on an upcoming episode, which will be joined by Tony from Spooky World, the movie, who has been on our show before, next week, for a very special episode. So Kat will return for that, but Andy and I are flying solo again tonight, 2 in a row.
2 in a row.
I know.
Let's go.
I know, it's a little weird. We got on fine without Kat last time. We were not able to make fun of her when she's not sitting here. But, I guess we still can.
We can still make fun of her. That's never a question.
So, have you heard anything about this? And I have heard from several reliable sources. You heard anything about this paranormal show that was being filmed in Plymouth over the last couple of weeks?
I have not, actually.
So, a couple different people told me that... apparently, Jack Osborne, Ozzy Osbourne's son, has a paranormal TV show, and that they were filming or doing research here in Plymouth for it. I know somebody that I know ran into this film crew at the BBC of all places in downtown Plymouth, and apparently they've been out and about shooting footage and talking about some haunted stuff. So
that's interesting. It's random.
Totally random, right?
Very random.
Totally random.
I mean, I guess upstairs at the BBC is probably haunted, but...
Yeah. I think the film crew was there drinking after a day of shooting. So
that makes sense.
But I would guarantee that the BBC is haunted. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess as we find out more about that, we'll let you guys know. Share it on social media if we ever do find out about it. But interesting stuff. So hopefully America's Hometown brings some horror to the small screen in the upcoming weeks.
Like what you did there.
See that? Yeah. So I know we've both watched quite a few things since the last time we recorded, or at least I have. I know you watched a movie that you dug pretty hard a couple nights ago, right?
Yeah, called Possessor.
Yep.
I think I watched it on Hulu, I want to say it was streaming on. It was 2020. It was Brandon Cronenberg, son of David Cronenberg.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I think it's his directorial debut.
That sounds right.
I don't think he's made any other movies. But in Cronenberg fashion, extremely gory death scenes.
Yeah.
Like over the top, disgusting, excessive.
Yeah.
But very fitting for this movie. I don't feel like they were out of place. They seemed perfectly in line with what the story was.
Yeah.
Very interesting movie. It's more of a sci-fi kind of psychological thriller. I highly recommend watching it. Didn't really know any of the actors or actresses in it. I've seen them in other things before.
Yep.
Other than what's his name, Sean Bean.
Oh yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Ned Stark
Thrones,
and yep.
Obviously.
Yep.
He was like the only one I immediately could recognize. The other people I recognized, but I couldn't put a...
Sure. A lot of like, oh, it's that guy. or
Yeah,
that
that
girl.
person.
I know that.
Yeah, exactly, but,
that person.
Not at all what you would think. Like, it's called Possessor, but it's not at all... It has nothing to do with spirits or
Nothing
ghosts.
not like demonic possession.
No, it's
Okay.
more of a... I don't know. I don't want to give anything away because it's a very new movie. You should definitely highly recommend watching it. It is very good story. Great death scenes.
Yeah. So safe to
Plenty
say,
of blood.
don't eat Hello Fresh and then watch this movie.
No, because you'll be hello vomiting.
Hello vomiting. Yeah. Hello trip to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I know I finished American Horror Stories, or Kat and I did, and they were all like decent. There were a couple that were better than others, but I would say overall, hit or miss, kind of like most anthology series. So now that we've finished that, we're going to probably move on to American Horror Story this new season, which we're way behind on. I haven't even seen one episode of it. But yeah, I'd recommend if you have Hulu, check out American Horror Stories. It's definitely worth your time. And then Andrew, I know I've been watching this, and you and I had a chance to watch this last night. But In Search of Darkness on Shudder.
Yeah.
I've watched it before, but I just kind of I started watching it again the other night just because it gets me in the mood for the Halloween season, and it's pretty dope.
I feel like you could lose 2 hours like that watching that. Because
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome. If you're a horror fan, like, what's not to like about it?
Yeah, it's awesome. Just goes year by year. In the 80s, talks about pretty much every horror movie that came out in the 80s. And they're interviewing all the heavy hitters, like huge directors, John Carpenter, Joe Dante, Mick Garris, like all these guys. And there's a ton of actors and everything, and it's really, really cool. And actually, we watched the section last night that talks about the movie that we're going to discuss tonight, which, put a pin in that. We'll get there in just a moment. And then the only other thing that I would say, Creeps, so we're recording on Thursday, this will be out on Friday. If you're listening to this right now, you will be able to watch the first episode of Creepshow Season 3 on Shudder. Andrew, I know you're not a huge fan of that show. I do like it. I'll be watching Season 3. And there's also a new, highly buzzed and talked about Netflix horror series coming out tomorrow, or today, if you're listening today, called Midnight Mass, which is the newest from Mike Flanagan, who Dr. Sleep, Haunting of Bly Manor, Haunting of Hill House, what else did he do? A bunch of other stuff. He's really, really good. And Midnight Mass is his newest show that's going to be available on Netflix.
What's that about?
So they have revealed very little, but apparently it is about a guy who returns to his small hometown. Seems very Stephen King-esque, has a dark past, and his arrival coincides with the arrival of this really odd priest, and all this stuff just starts happening. But aside from that, I don't really know what it's about.
Sounds interesting.
I just know that it's getting rave reviews out there right now. So, kind of like The Haunting of Hill House did and The Haunting of Bly Manor did. When Mike Flanagan puts something out, it kind of sets the horror world abuzz. So I would definitely say check out Midnight Mass if you're looking for something a little bit more serious, and if you want something a little bit more lighthearted and funny and kind of scary, go for Creepshow. Cool. Got anything else?
What else? I watched John Carpenter's Vampires.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were mentioning that to me.
Which is a solid movie.
Yeah, underrated.
Yeah, underrated. I think I've seen it like once or twice before, like bits and pieces of it.
Yeah. Good old
Interesting.
James Woods.
Yeah, James Woods.
The pride of Rhode Island.
He annoys me, but and so does the Baldwin brother that's in it. I can't think
Oh,
of his
yeah,
name.
all the Baldwins suck.
Yeah.
Can't suck enough.
But interesting take on a vampire movie. I mean, it's kind of different.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Cool, man. Ready to talk about tonight's movie?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's do it. So we talked about it initially that we watched a segment on this movie last night. Probably one of the most controversial and I would say underappreciated sequels of all time. And I doesn't translate well to a podcast, but I put the word sequel in air quotes because it's really not a sequel. And that, of course, is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I know this was a movie that you definitely, when we were planning out, September and October for the Halloween season, this is one that you were very adamant about getting into our rotation. So why don't you start off with your thoughts on this movie, why you wanted to talk about it, what you think of it, the whole nine. Away you go.
Well, I'll just start off by saying people are probably like, Season of the Witch, Halloween 3, blah, blah, blah. I hate that movie. It's not like the first two. Doesn't have Michael Myers.
Right.
I am of the belief that, I am of the opinion that Halloween and Halloween 2 are fine. They're good movies. I have no complaints. Actually, Halloween 2 kind of sucks.
Halloween 2 kind of sucks. It's okay.
Halloween 1 to me,
you're not a huge
it's
fan.
fine. It's a good movie, but so I wasn't like butthurt by the fact that Halloween 3 was its own different movie. I thought it was very well done, interesting story.
Yep.
It is the ultimate 80s horror movie. Like it hits on every level with the cheese. And I mean, they got it's kind of cultish. Mm-hmm. It's got a little bit of the supernatural involved in it.
Over the top gore.
Over the top gore. Great physical, practical effects.
Yep.
Just a weird fucking. It's one of those movies that's just so weird that I love, and I love weird movies.
Yeah.
Like the acting is nothing great, which is fine. I mean, it's good.
I love me some Tom Atkins, though. I will say, I love Tom Atkins.
Yeah, he's an interesting character in that movie.
Yeah,
very very strange.
So I think we're probably going to talk about that a little bit more. Even though his character is definitely a bit creepy. I mean, you know, he's a horror veteran. He's been in a bunch of horror movies. He's one of those guys that you'll see, be like, oh yeah, I know him. That's Tom Atkins.
You wouldn't see that character in a horror movie in the.
No. It's definitely very, very 80s. But it's actually funny. So the segment of In Search of Darkness on Halloween 3 Season of the Witch that we watched last night, he was being interviewed, and he's like, I think in his 80s now. So he's
wild.
Yeah, and he's still, he's talked about how much he loved making the movie and the fact that they addressed the whole controversy about there being no Michael Myers. And he seemed to really enjoy his time making that movie. So. Yeah, I honestly think that this movie had been called something different. I think it would have kind of changed the legacy of the entire movie. It would have been more well received.
Yeah, they
in my opinion,
called it Season of the Witch,
or even like
something.
You know, so we'll talk a little bit more about this. But like, you know, even if it didn't have 3 in it, if it just had John Carpenter's Halloween: Season of the Witch, because you know, I think the third one in there, and obviously people were expecting to see Michael Myers. Insanely popular first movie, second movie.
He was in the movie, though.
He was in the movie. Yep. We'll also get to that. But I just think, I agree with what you said. This is definitely, it's a very good movie. I would say it definitely has horror-ish elements, and it's a horror movie, but it leans heavily into sci-fi, I would say. Mm-hmm. Definitely some cult vibes going on, some witchcraft, some warlockery, the whole nine.
Yeah.
Very creepy movie. And, you know, this is definitely one of those films, like, I feel like you have to be, I don't want to say a hardcore horror fan. Maybe that's what I mean. But you have to be a hardcore horror fan to kind of appreciate this movie. The casual horror fan that's looking for a slasher like Michael Myers, which someone that usually sits next to us on this podcast, I feel like would probably hate this fucking movie.
She probably would
despise it.
This for her would be like Phantasm.
Yeah, I think so too. But, you know, hey, it's got some you know, a lasting legacy. I think over the years it's kind of gotten a better reputation because people have kind of accepted it for what it is. And, you know, hey, the silver shamrock masks, iconic. They're pretty cool. And I pointed out to you in one of the newer trailers for Halloween Kills that comes out in a couple of weeks, they are making this movie canon because apparently 3 of Michael's victims that are left behind are wearing each of the 3 silver shamrock masks. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Looks like Halloween Kills is really going like balls to the wall with all like the, you know, all the nods to the past movies in the franchise.
That's excellent. I like that.
Yeah.
Got to throw some nods in.
And I think so. Like, I think a lot of the characters in Halloween Kills are the actors that play, or the actors or the characters from earlier sequels as adults now, kind of uniting and trying to like kill Michael Myers. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. Comes out in a couple weeks, like I said. And I think I've now had the Silver Shamrock jingle trapped in my, stuck in my head
hard to get out.
For, at least
8 more days till
Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 8 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Probably the most annoying. And they
So,
do it.
yeah,
It's probably played like 38,000 times.
I have that number. It's not as many as you'd think. I have the number. But, that's what I think about Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. So we'll get into the stuff that we usually do. We'll talk facts, we'll talk categories, analysis, etc., etc. But, so this is now the 4th movie we've covered from 1982. And I think this definitely falls probably towards the end, because these are 3 of my 3 bangers. But The Thing is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. as is Creepshow. And I also really am a fan of Poltergeist. And I think I probably like all three of those movies more than I do Season of the Witch. Poltergeist, it's closer, I think.
That's tough, yeah.
Creepshow and The Thing, far and away.
Creepshow and The Thing are definitely 1, 2.
Yeah.
Whatever order you want to put it in, I don't care. It's fine.
Yeah.
Poltergeist, great movie, but
Yeah.
this is such a this is like, I feel like you can't even like talk about this movie in the same way that you talk about those movies.
Yeah, you can't. So actually, it's funny. So after Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, they also talked about Poltergeist on In Search of Darkness, and they called it kind of like, because it is, the Spielbergification of horror. It definitely feels like it's a Spielberg movie. Like, it's got some scary moments, but it definitely feels like it's a little bit more of your, I guess it's a more approachable horror movie than Friday.
Yeah, it's a more mainstream.
Than Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Yeah, it's more like you could take your kids to see Poltergeist. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, probably not. Well, yeah, Poltergeist was rated PG. This was definitely rated R.
That's wild.
Yeah, I think it was before PG-13 existed, which is just fucking nuts. So, also came out in 1982, Friday the 13th, Part 3, and Cat People, which is a remake of a 50s horror movie that starred Malcolm McDowell. Not a ton of other huge movies of note from 1982.
Where's Cat? We have a movie about her.
I know, Cat People. Excuse me. All right, cool. Want to hear some factoids about Halloween 3 Season of the Witch?
I'm sure there's
There's some interesting stuff in here. So, we already kind of talked about this, but this is famously the only film, the only one in the Halloween franchise not to feature Michael Myers. Obviously, it was a huge point of contention and controversy for a lot of people, but I'd say to the hardened, seasoned horror veteran, maybe it works as an advantage for this movie because Michael Myers is I love the Halloween movies as much as the next guy, but Michael Myers is kind of all kinds of overexposed at this point. So I think, and John Carpenter probably felt that way.
So, let's be real. Halloween, good movie. Halloween 2 kind of stunk. Mm-hmm. Halloween 4 was that?
Halloween 4 was the return of Michael Myers, and then there was
H2O.
Halloween 5. I think there was a Halloween 5, then I think there's Halloween H2O.
Any of those good?
Not really.
No,
I mean,
not really.
Like,
so
you watch them just
So theoretically, this could be the second best in that grouping of movies.
Yeah.
So maybe this helped the Halloween.
So what do you? Let me ask you this: what do you like better, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, or the 2018 Halloween sequel that was a direct sequel to the first one?
So that's different. Yeah, it's hard to compare.
I would say this is probably the third best movie
out of the ones that are the original ones, like the ones before they started doing.
This is the second best of the original ones. Yeah,
that's
I think so. Yeah, for sure.
But it's hard to rank it with the 2018.
Yeah.
Numbers. Very good.
So John Carpenter, I guess after the success of Halloween, he didn't really want to make a Halloween 2, but they threw a bunch of money at him, so he did it. And he wanted to, his initial plan, instead of doing Halloween 2, was to do this movie directly after and turn Halloween into an anthology series. But, when they decided they wanted to do Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, he passed the baton off to Tommy Lee Wallace. So this movie was written and directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. It was his directorial debut. Tommy Lee Wallace, also famous for directing the TV miniseries version of It from 1990. Shout out to Kat's favorite thing on earth. But the movie was produced by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, his longtime collaborative partner.
Did he do anything else after
I think he got some writing credits on it as well, but they were the producers of the movie, the two of them.
No, any other Tommy Lee Wallace? Did he do anything other than It?
Nothing too famous. That was the most, like when I looked at his filmography, that was pretty much the most famous thing. That's It, yes. It and Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. So basically, I kind of said this, but, Carpenter Hill thought the story of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers had run out of steam, and as a result, they wanted to turn the Halloween franchise into an anthology film series, which kind of leads me back to my original point, that if this movie hadn't been called Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, if it had just been called, like I said, John Carpenter's Halloween Season of the Witch, or just Season of the Witch, something like that, I think it would have went over much better with horror fans and moviegoers, This definitely has much more of a science fiction vibe, which was intentional. Deborah Hill, the co-producer of the movie, actually said that inspiration for this movie was drawn from Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Makes sense.
The 1956 movie, which, more on that in a moment. So the Silver Shamrock masks, the ghost, what is it? It's a jack-o'-lantern, the skull, the jack-o'-lantern, and the witch.
Yep.
All three of those masks were designed by Don Post, who made the original William Shatner mask that was turned into the iconic mask for Michael Myers. So same guy designed the mask for this movie.
Awesome masks.
They're really cool. They look great. They're awesome. Most of the filming, and here's where this kind of ties back into Invasion of the Body Snatchers again. So most of the filming took place in the small coastal town of Lolita, California. And the Silver Shamrock factory in the movie is located in Santa Mira, California, which is a fictional town. But it's a fictional town that has been used in several works of horror and sci-fi throughout the years that aren't sequels and stuff. So obviously the aforementioned Invasion of the Body Snatchers movie in 1956 takes place in Santa Mira, California. Phantoms, which is a 1983 Dean Koontz novel, that takes place in Santa Mira, California. The Dark Tower 7, obviously written by Stephen King, takes place partly in Santa Mira, California. And, most randomly, Sharknadoes 2, 3, 4, and 5 all took place.
So this is a non-real place,
yep.
like a fictional
place. All of
all
those things have taken place, at least partly, in Santa Mira, California. I thought that was a really cool little thing.
Yeah, it's like its own universe.
Its own universe.
Basically.
I know how much you love shared universes.
It's definitely
Andrew.
a shared universe, then.
Yeah. But the actual Silver Shamrock factory itself was it was a paper pulp factory that was used for the setting of the Silver Shamrock toy factory, or mask factory, I should say. Tom Atkins, who plays the main character in the movie, had worked with John Carpenter twice in the past, including The Fog in 1980 and Escape from New York in 1981, before he collaborated with Carpenter again in Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. And we mentioned that Michael Myers makes a cameo in this movie, which we'll talk about in a second, but according to multiple online sources, Jamie Lee Curtis herself gets 2 vocal cameos. Any guesses as to where they are?
Is it on the loudspeaker?
There's one.
Yep. And the commercial?
The other one's the telephone operator.
The telephone operator.
So supposedly,
that's right, yeah.
Supposedly that's her on both.
It sounds actually, now that you mention it,
Yep.
Yeah, the loudspeaker and then that. Okay,
Yep.
that makes sense.
Yep. And in addition to that, you kind of mentioned this before, but the original Halloween film is canon in this movie, as a commercial for the film can be seen when Dr. Chalice, Tom Atkins' character, is at the bar in the beginning of the movie. And it's also played when Chalice is left to die by Cochran in that room when they put the mask on him. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a cool little thing where it's like, okay, hey, we know the first 2 movies exist, but they also exist in this movie as well, which I thought was a cool touch. That's definitely something that they would do, I feel like, nowadays. I feel like you didn't really get that a lot back in the early 80s.
No, I feel like that was pretty original for that time.
Cool idea. Yeah, Carpenter just rocks, even though he didn't direct it, but he's the creative force behind this.
He definitely has influences, yeah.
The soundtrack for this movie, which is excellent, by the way, was composed by Carpenter and Alan Horvath, who I guess they both collaborated. Carpenter obviously wrote the iconic Halloween score, but I think Horvath worked with him on that, or at least in the second movie. And finally, one of the most memorable aspects of the film is the Silver Shamrock jingle, which we already talked about, which is set to the tune of London Bridges Falling Down, which the main reason they chose that is because it's in the public domain. They didn't have to pay for the rights to use that song. And it's played a total of 14 times in the movie.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. I actually thought it was going to be more than that, though. It does seem like it's playing every 30 seconds.
It's a long fucking jingle, though.
It really is.
It's at least 20 seconds each time.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that goes on for 5 seconds.
2 more days till Halloween. I digress. The voice in those commercials, by the way, is director Tommy Lee Wallace.
Oh, okay.
Gather round, children. Come, we'll put your masks on and watch the Silver Shamrock commercial on Halloween. So fucking weird.
It's such a weird... who does... imagine being a thing.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, in terms of half-assed analysis for Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, I got a couple things, but you have any idea or, anything that you picked up on, what you thought this movie was about watching it?
I mean, what this movie was about?
Like a deeper meaning?
A deeper meaning?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a deeper meaning for this movie other than maybe the over-commercialization of Halloween.
That's exactly what I had. So this is basically... this is pretty much a critique of American consumer culture and the commercialization of Halloween, right? Because the villain in this movie, obviously, is an Irishman, and, obviously the Celtic... roots of Halloween are very famous, and it's kind of like he's taking revenge on America for the fact that Halloween has become such a thing, and he wants to bring it back to its roots, which is an interesting concept.
More sadistic version of Willy Wonka.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. And it's funny because this was made in the early 80s, and they're making that point then. If only they could see what Halloween has turned into now and how much it's been commercialized in 2021.
right.
Which, don't get me wrong, I love.
You know what I'd be okay with? One of the few movies, because it didn't get enough... I'd be okay with a remake of this movie.
Yeah, or a sequel to it.
A sequel? Interesting.
Or a remake. Or so we can talk about that if we think it deserves a sequel. We can get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you know what? Talk about it now. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I feel like it... Nobody really knows about it. Like you said, the hardcore horror fans know about this movie.
Yep.
I feel like most average people have no idea about this movie.
Yeah.
It's also fucking old.
Yeah.
So nobody watches older movies anymore.
Well, I feel like you have to be a horror fan. You can't be the casual horror fan is not sitting down.
So
to
I
watch
think this movie should
Halloween 3: Season of the Witch.
Because I feel like you could make.
Hopefully, this translates to a lot of listens for us. By the way, this episode tonight.
Yeah, I know, right? People are like Season of the Witch,
What
Halloween
the fuck
3.
is that?
Maybe it'll turn into because people don't know about it, or they do know about it and they forgot how great that movie is because it's one of those movies that I feel like you can forget about, but when you watch it again, you realize, this movie is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And I feel like they could do a lot with, you could do a pretty close remake without changing much up and make it better just with the advancements. I'd still prefer the practical effects, but even the practical effects are, have improved since then. So
yeah, I'm with you.
Maybe, who I'm for? Brandon Cronenberg. Why don't you make
Brandon Cronenberg? All right, cool.
Might be a little,
I dig it.
Might be a little outside.
Brandon Cronenberg can do the remake, and John Carpenter's son, Cody Carpenter, can do the music for it.
Be okay with that.
That'd be pretty cool. Pretty sweet. All right, so before we get into our categories, just a reminder that tonight's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. Do you feel like you're stuck in a dinner rut? Well, if you do, HelloFresh gets you fresh pre-measured ingredients with mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip all those trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking fun, easy, and affordable. You can now enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in 30 minutes or less, and with over 25 recipes to choose from each week, there's something for everyone to enjoy. All recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. Just simply go to the link in our show notes to get $80 off your first order and free shipping on HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit indeed. All right, again, so categories. We might fly through these here tonight because we don't have Kat to bring her usual spunk and energy to these categories. Not that we're not filled with energy, Andrew, but, do you find this movie to be scary? Because I didn't.
Scary?
Creepy.
No, it's just... It's not supposed to be scary.
No.
I don't think.
I mean, I think it's definitely a movie that's taking itself seriously. It's trying
to take it seriously.
You.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but it doesn't feel like... Nothing about it is at all realistic.
It's much more creepy. And
it's a very creepy vibes with the culty vibes.
Yeah, of course. And I definitely can feel the influence of like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers type movie on this, because with the clones and the androids and all that, and
but a town like that, those towns like that do exist.
Yeah,
and that's creepy because
the town might have been the creepiest part of the whole movie. I thought,
because they were all. They didn't even think. I didn't think anybody in the town knew about it. Except for the people that were in basically, it was basically him and just all the androids that knew about it.
I think so.
Because everyone else
were all the townspeople androids? That's an interesting question.
It's possible.
It's definitely possible.
The only thing that was weird about it was they have their curfew at 6 o'clock every night.
Yeah, it's fucking early.
Yet there's a fucking liquor store that's open.
Yeah.
Why is that liquor store open?
Yeah,
didn't make any sense.
I know.
He's going to the Packy after curfew and it's open.
Yeah.
If there's a curfew for 6 o'clock and you have to be in your house, why is this place?
Yeah,
open?
why is the Packy open? Or what? You just can't be out cavorting in the street? I'm
very confused by that.
What does the curfew actually entail? That would be my big question. I didn't get that either. But can we take a second here to talk about Dr. Chalice, Tom Atkins' character? Dude, this is definitely a character. I think there's you wouldn't be able to get away with a lot of the shit that he does in 2021.
He would be canceled very quickly.
Yeah, very, very quickly. I mean, he's I don't think he's portrayed to be. He's pretty much like an anti-hero. He's a womanizing alcoholic doctor that tends to drink quite a bit. I mean, he's. I looked this up because it kind of struck me a little bit. So Tom Atkins, when they filmed this movie, was about 45, give or take. And the daughter's name, what was her name? Do you remember?
Ellie?
Ellie. I think it was Ellie. That's right. Yeah,
I think it was Ellie.
Ellie. The girl that played Ellie was 22 at the time this movie was filmed. So it's kind of a little creepy.
Yep.
You know, I mean, he's clearly divorced and a bad father, but you know, he shows up to work and he's slapping nurses' asses in the hallways, and
like old ass nurses.
Yeah, like
she's like 60 something.
Yeah, and he's like, he's the woman that was doing all the forensic work, like looking at the android guy. He like gives her a smooch.
They had definitely hooked up.
They've been fucking, and he's like, oh yeah, I'll go out to dinner with you anytime. And then he like hangs up the phone. He like hops into bed with this 22-year-old girl, and he's banging this girl.
Yeah,
like
wild.
He's like, I love when he like tries to pull like the. He's like, oh, like maybe we should get another room. I can go sleep in the car. And she's like, well, that would kind of make things suspicious, wouldn't it? She was like, where do you want to sleep, Dr. Chalice? And he's like, well, I think you know the answer to that, don't you?
Yeah,
and
right.
She's like, yeah, let's fuck.
Smooth,
very, very smooth. Like but I was like,
he knew what was up.
Okay, this could be your daughter, dude. But yeah, go for it, man. Whatever floats your boat, bro. All right, so yeah, we're a little off topic there, but I feel like we had to address that portion of the character. Oh my god. Did you have a favorite scene in this movie?
Favorite scene is kind of tough. There's so many good scenes in this movie. I guess I'll go with, if I have to, because it's such a weird scene, is when it's towards the end of the movie when they're in the factory, and I forget the name of the family. It's like the top salesman.
Yeah. That was mine too.
And they put him in that room
Yep.
for the test commercial.
Yep.
And it goes on, and like the kid's head starts getting like enveloped by the mask.
Yeah.
And then all these disgusting bugs
and snakes
start crawling out, and they kill the parents.
Yeah.
That was like when that happens, you're like, oh shit, this is
that's where this is going.
You're like, this is weird. Like,
yeah.
What the fuck? Because what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
It's like the snakes. Yeah. It's about the snakes being driven out of Ireland.
That's correct.
Remember from St. Patty's Day?
Yes.
Always Sunny.
Yes, I do.
But that's a different holiday, so I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really understand that. I mean, I'm Irish. I won't pretend to know all of the details about the origin of Halloween, or Samhain, I believe, as it was called in old Celtic and pagan folk.
Did we look into that at all?
Folklore.
Did you look into that at all?
I did not, actually.
I'm curious if that
probably should have.
Yeah, that probably would have been a good idea.
Yeah, too. Stupid me.
Well,
that's okay. Yeah, but I had that down as my favorite scene too. That's probably like the biggest what the fuck moment. That and another moment, which I'll talk about for my favorite kill. But I really liked, and it's subtle, I really liked the creepy factor of that town where the factory is, and just kind of like the whole vibe of that town. Like the scene where they arrive there is really cool.
Feel like a goldfish.
Yeah, exactly. And then like when Dr. Chalice is trying to walk around and kind of figure out like what the fuck's going on. It's just very, very creepy. I also thought too the scene where what's the guy Ellie's dad, when he's killed at the hospital, the guy like basically like rips his skull apart.
Yeah.
And then the guy, Dr. Chalice chases him out of the hospital, and he sets himself on fire in the car. I was like, oh shit, that's pretty cool, pretty awesome. So, yeah. And I hadn't seen this movie in quite a long time, so there were some little things that I forgot, but I remembered most of it. I would say, excuse me. I mean, in terms of a favorite quote, is there anything else that sticks out to you besides that fucking jingle?
I mean, at the end of the movie when he's like, when he's like yelling on the
Stop it!
Stop it! Yeah, but other than that,
I mean, we already kind of said it, but it could be, well, I think you know where I want to sleep.
I mean, that might be.
That might be a good choice.
I think you know where I want to sleep.
You're gonna use that. You gotta use that for a pickup line the next time you're out at a bar.
Yeah.
There you go.
That'll go over real well. Any of you feminitas in for some supplemental restraint?
All right. Who was your favorite and least favorite characters?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, Dr. Chalice is my favorite.
It's got to be, right? I mean, I feel like this is it's kind of there aren't too many characters in this movie, I would say.
No, least favorite would probably be that's tough.
I hated the douchey salesman whose fucking kid got killed.
Yeah, I think he was supposed to be like, he reminded me, like we were saying, Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
He reminded me of like Violet.
Yes,
Beauregard. He's
did.
Like Beauregard.
Oh my god, that's such a good
Beauregard
call.
here.
Such a good call. Hey, Beauregard here. Violet, you're saying Violet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he just reminds me of like I worked in sales for a very long time in my prior career, and he just reminds me of every ass-kissing, sleazy sales fuckwad that I had ever met in my entire life. They call themselves like sales gurus, like the ABC crowd, the always be closing. Like, fuck that. I can't stand that shit. I'm so glad that I don't do it anymore. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, he was my least favorite. I mean, also, what's the guy that runs the factory? Coulson or Cochran? Cochran, yeah. Cochran, obviously, you know,
What's
he's
his
a
first
villain.
name?
Connor or something. It's like something with a
weird.
C. Yeah, something
weird.
Irish. So yeah, I mean he's the villain obviously, so he's supposed to be an asshole, but you know it's I would say the motives for his crime were
very strange,
very very odd. I mean, hey, Irish,
I did like when he gave
Irish
a little,
pride all the day, all
clap
day.
as once he figured out how to defeat him.
Yes, that was pretty cool.
He lost with grace.
Yeah. Anybody in the cast that you had an issue with, or anyone that you'd replace, or anything that could have been better there? I didn't really have anything.
No, for those type of movies, as long as it's fine, like
Yeah.
I wouldn't replace it.
Yeah, there was nothing egregious here, I would say.
Everyone played their roles well.
Yeah, I think so too. Any nitpicks? Want to pick some nits with this movie?
Plenty of nitpicks. More just, I don't know if they're plot holes or confusion. But, okay, main nitpick, maybe I'm missing something here. At the end, when they blow up the whole place, basically, with those chips.
Yep.
How is the commercial still getting aired? Didn't they destroy everything?
So, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Am I missing something?
Yeah.
Is it already set? Another nitpick, when he calls the television company...
Yeah.
Get the thing shut off, and they're just like doing it on every channel. Like I don't think it works.
That doesn't work that way. I mean, unless it's like a local. I mean, yeah, because he's trying. Obviously, it shows that these masks are being purchased everywhere around the country.
Yeah.
So, like, he's standing in a fucking phone booth at a gas station in
Somehow
California, like trying to get the whole
What
country
phone number
to turn-
did you call?
Yeah,
How did you get this number?
Hello, operator, get me the TV company,
Get me
please.
the TV. If it was nowadays, you'd be like, "Get me Verizon." You'd be on hold for 35 minutes, and everybody would be
They'd
dead.
be like, "Oh, sorry, you're on hold. How sad." Yeah, they're like, how CBS, turn that shit off. ABC, turn that shit off. NBC, turn that shit off. Everywhere, like, I mean, obviously, suspend disbelief a bit here, but it's
Clearly,
like, if we're dissecting this a little bit further. Also, I'm sure it probably has something to do with the history of Halloween and Samhain, or maybe it doesn't. What was the significance of the Stonehenge?
So they were trying to, so they bring it up in the beginning. This little time.
I saw in the news clip.
Yep, the news clip that
piece
some of
of it
was missing.
Yep.
And I think they brought in the fact that it has to do something to do with an astrological
time.
time. So that was
Yeah.
they needed that particular stone for
Yeah.
maybe this date when it's 300 because it was like 300
That
years
that
ago.
makes sense. I probably just missed that when
Still
I was rewatching.
wild,
I was
like-
probably looking at my phone or something. But yeah, astrological shit.
Who comes up with this shit?
Yeah, I know. I couldn't give one less of a fuck about astrological shit. That shit bores the fuck out
Yeah,
of me.
like so it's one of those things like they have to like bring it up just enough, and then you're like, well, it doesn't matter because nobody's watching this and cares.
That is
about
very clearly, when they show the Stonehenge thing on the news at the beginning, that is very clearly exposition like, hey, pay attention to this shit about the Stonehenge because it's going to be important
Yeah,
later.
because why else would you be showing this?
Yeah, exactly. Also, how the fuck are you stealing a piece of the Stonehenge? How are you stealing that?
Well, he's got those robots.
Yeah,
that
it's
he
the
created.
robots just like carrying it across the ocean? Like what?
Well, you got to think he probably has some sort of. He's like Dr. Evil. He's got to have some
Yeah.
sort of like shuttle or something.
Yeah, I mean,
that
it's
he can-
essentially, it's also another thing too. But so it's called Season of the Witch. He's a warlock because he's a male, right? So it should be called Season of the Warlock, right? Maybe not as nice of a ring to it, but yeah, maybe he's got like some mystical warlock powers that can bring peace.
They
to
could have. They
Stonehenge.
should have done just some weird fucking name for this movie because like you could have gone so many different directions. I can't think of any names off the top of my head, but it's such a weird movie. Like it could have been like.
The Return of Samhain, or like like I don't know, something weird.
I don't know.
How the Stonehenge got stolen.
Yeah, something with
a Silver
Stonehenge.
Shamrock story, something like that.
Silver Shamrock would have been a fine
Silver
name.
Shamrock would have been a cool name for it too. All right, cool. Yeah, so I had a couple nits to pick there. You have anything else?
I'm not sure if it's a nitpick. Just a ridiculous scene in the movie is at the end when they're driving away and he saved Ellie and he's trying to get away, and then it becomes clear that Ellie has been perhaps converted into or turned into a robot too.
Yep.
And he smashes the car because she starts attacking him.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets out, rolls out, like he's fine. Like first off, that's a wild car accident.
Yeah.
You should be fucked up.
Yeah, he just like
He
gets
gets
out.
out. I'm pretty sure he didn't have a seatbelt, and God knows if there's even an airbag in that car.
Yeah.
He gets out, and
should
then
have
she
been
starts
dead.
attacking him. And he must have killed that thing like 4 different times.
Yeah.
And
It
you
just
think
keeps
it's over,
coming
then
back.
all of a sudden just her arm,
Yeah.
which has already been detached from her body multiple times, is just on his neck choking him. And it's like,
Yeah.
and it happens like 4 times after, like, it's like, oh. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Is this
Yeah.
just like, is this intentional overkill?
Yep.
Which I feel like it is.
Probably is, yeah. Just again, 80s excess at,
yeah.
at its finest in horror
But
movies.
that was ridiculous. Little side note here, which made me wonder, was Ellie a robot the entire time?
I know. Very good question.
The only thing that makes me believe that that's not true is
Dr.
that
Chalice just having sex with robots?
the. I mean, he probably wouldn't care.
He wouldn't care.
No,
He'd go for it.
you know where he's sleeping.
You know, well, you know that.
The other thing that makes it different is the robots never say anything. They never have any personality. They're very
Right.
just like they're
Yeah.
like brainwashed humans.
Yeah.
So she never displays any of those attributes throughout the movie
Mm-hmm.
until the end when she's finally. So I think they did something with her. But
Yeah.
how did they convert her into that? Like, what did they do?
I don't
Were
know.
those robots or whatever? Were they human at one point and he did something? So they had like yellow blood, and then all of a sudden they became.
I think personally that he was pretty much just using people's likeness to build androids out of them, and I think all the people that he was killing, he was sacrificing.
So Ellie
for-
was probably killed in that rub, and then they
sacrificed,
removed
and
her.
they were
and they
like, yeah,
put
just
her
kind of
in there.
used her likeness in an android.
That makes
type
sense.
thing.
Yeah, just took her, shedded her skin off, and
Yeah,
it on
exactly. I know we already talked about favorite scenes, but I just kind of thought of this. I thought one of the coolest parts of the movie was kind of like the opening credits, the homage to Halloween, the original, because obviously
Yeah.
they do like the computerized
Yeah.
jack-o'-lantern. I thought that was kind of a cool
oh, that was an
touch.
excellent
Yeah.
way to start the movie.
Yeah, very
But that
cool.
probably pissed people off too.
Yeah, they're probably like, what the fuck is this shit?
And then afterwards they're like,
I
wow.
want jack-o'-lanterns and Michael Myers and knives and Dr. Loomis.
I want the
and-
same
yeah.
movie 3 times
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
row.
exactly.
Well, you're a fucking idiot and no one cares what you think.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
well,
my
I mean,
thought.
hey, that's John Carpenter was telling you that at the end of Halloween 2, he kills Michael Myers and kills Dr. Loomis. So he didn't want to do any more at that point. This is what he wanted to do. So deal with it. Get over it. Get over it. What was your favorite kill in the movie, Andrew? I have one if you'd like.
Kill in the movie. You can go first.
I'll go first. Mine was the quote-unquote misfire.
Oh,
Pretty cool.
That is probably when the bug that's the
Now,
so
what was
what
that?
is with the bugs?
I don't
coming out?
understand it.
So what is this thing? I'm confused as to what comes out of
Yeah.
this piece of Stonehenge that blasts bugs into your face and then they come crawling out.
Bugs and snakes.
I don't think you're supposed to know. I feel like nobody.
Yeah,
cares.
it's supposed to be
It's just
ambiguous and
gross,
weird.
and
yeah.
it just is what it is. I mean, you were talking about earlier. Her dad died, and the way he rips, like with his nose, like he breaks.
Yeah,
it was
that was
fucking
weird.
gross.
Yeah. Oof.
Really good effects.
Yeah.
like that was
Essentially gouging that guy's eyeballs out,
And then
reaching into his eye sockets, and
pulling
pulling his
his, like,
skull apart. Like,
Ugh.
yeah,
I
like,
was like,
yikes.
ugh.
Oh my
a
god.
terrible way to die.
That's a Michael Myers-esque kill right there.
Yeah.
So,
So they definitely, they kept the pain.
yeah, for sure. For sure. There's some gross shit in this movie. So, do you think this could be an interesting haunted attraction?
I mean, you could definitely use the Silver Shamrock.
Awesome location for it.
Perfect. Like you could do like a smaller version of the town, and then you end up in the factory at the end. Like,
Yep.
really, I think that would work.
So,
I would go in a heartbeat.
I
honestly.
obviously would too, and I think in true Halloween 3 Season of the Witch fashion, last year and for parts of this year. So obviously last year COVID happened, so it fucked a lot of shit over. Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood, there were backstage photos taken of a maze that was, or a house. I hate when people call them haunted mazes. A haunted house that was in development, and the facade for this house was the outside of the Silver Shamrock factory.
Really?
So they were going to do
And then they just skipped it?
Halloween 3 Season of the Witch house, and I don't know if because they only had the rights to do this for 1 year, or what happened behind the scenes. It was never officially confirmed by Universal. It was pretty widely known behind the scenes that this was actually supposed to be at the
that's-
event. And it was instead replaced by our good old friend Michael Myers, and Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, which you can walk through at Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood this year. But I think it would have been so much cooler to see them do a take on Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, because
That's a
again,
bummer.
Michael Myers is all kinds
Maybe
of
if our
overexposed.
maybe if our buddies at Barrett's are
Halloween 3
listening,
Season
maybe
of the
Halloween
Witch.
3 Season of the Witch.
That'd be sweet. That'd be sweet. But I would definitely say, I think you could do a lot of stuff with, like, you could do stuff with the androids. You could do a lot of stuff with the masks. You could do some cool stuff with,
you could
like, the
certainly
Stonehenge.
annoy people with the jingle
Oh my
playing
god,
the entire
absolutely.
time.
3 more days till Halloween, Halloween. I'm definitely putting that sound effect
I
in
feel
this
like that would
episode.
actually make like kind of a cool like theme like roller coaster or like ride too.
That'd be sweet.
Like
I'd be down for that.
yeah,
I'd ride. I'd go for a ride.
I'd ride with that witch.
Yeah. So, and this is, kind of our last question here. We kind of talked about this a little bit already. Would you like to see a sequel to this movie? I know you said you'd like to see a reboot of this movie, like a remake.
A remake. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it should be remade. And then you can talk about a sequel.
Yeah.
I don't really know what you would do for a sequel.
I agree, because I actually the more I think about it, and the more that you talk about it, you've talked me into it, because I think the way that this movie ends, a pretty dark ending, and it's
Yeah, because you don't know what happened.
You don't know.
I'm under the assumption that the commercial gets aired.
the commercial gets aired, lots of people die, Ellie dies,
Yep.
and everything that Dr. Chalice has been doing is in vain. So, despite the fact that he blew up the factory and got rid of all killed all the androids and
Yeah.
Cochrane and all that, so I think a remake of this would be pretty cool, because they could update it for modern times. And like I said, like, Halloween is so much more commercialized now in 2021 than it was ever back in the 80s. I mean, it's been popular for a long time, but I feel like each year it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Which, again, don't get me wrong, I fucking love that.
Oh yeah.
But they could definitely do a cool remake of this, I would say.
100%. I think if they could
Yeah.
take their time, do it right.
Also, you know what? Like, hey,
Stay true to the story too,
Yeah.
please.
fuck your franchises. Dude, let a horror mind like John Carpenter or somebody else like James Wan or Jordan Peele, let them do a movie series that is an anthology, a movie series that is an anthology, and call it Jordan Peele's Halloween, and then call it a different title and do new movies, different stories every year. I would fucking love that. Or do a TV series in the vein of Creepshow or The Twilight Zone, or something like that. I would love
I
to
feel
see.
like that's.
something
I feel
that.
like this movie was way too before its time.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's
That's why I think. That's why
great
the
way
reason
to
I think
describe it.
another like a reboot.
Yeah.
Get people thinking about it again, going, "Wow, that's such a great idea. Why didn't they do this back then?"
Yeah.
Because people are stupid and sheep.
Yeah, agreed. All right, cool. Any final thoughts on Halloween 3, Season of the Warlock? Oh, I'm sorry, Season of the Witch.
I only have one more thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
8 more days till Halloween,
Halloween, Halloween. 8 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. That is a very well said final thought, my friend. Nicely put. Nicely
Yeah,
put.
I
Well,
thought so.
I think that's about all we got on Halloween 3,
Yeah.
Season of the Witch. Good stuff.
Pretty good, concise. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like a deep dive into the movie because there's
Yeah.
really nothing deep to dive into. It's
Yeah.
just a good 80s horror movie that if you haven't seen it, you really need to watch it. And you go into this movie knowing
Yeah.
it's not Halloween.
Yeah.
It's Season of the Witch.
Yep.
So just don't put all the your
Yeah,
past thoughts of
I would
Halloween
say, like, if you're a horror fan and somehow this movie has passed you by, you need to check this out.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
It's
For
an
sure.
awesome movie.
Yeah. For true. All right, so with that being said, looking forward to having Kat back on here next week with us, but here's where you can find us on the following social media platforms. First and foremost is our website, that's ahpod.com, ahhpod.com. You can also find us on YouTube and Facebook. Just go on there and search for America's Hometown Horror, not Horror, and you will find us. We're on Twitter at Hometown Horror, and we're on Instagram at Hometown Horror Pod. And you can also email us at hometownhorrorpodcast@gmail.com. And you can also listen to our show wherever you're listening to us right now, but also on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, blah, 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 blah. Pretty much everywhere. So, my name is Mike. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of America's Hometown Horror, and I have been joined by my co-host, Andrew. As always, say goodbye to your listeners, Andrew.
Adios, boys and girls.
Good evening.
Don't forget your masks.
Hey everyone, it's Mike from America's Hometown Horror, and just wanted to say thank you again for listening to another episode of our show, because of course, we would be nothing without you listeners. If you are interested in more local Plymouth podcasts, I would highly recommend you check out some shows by our cohorts on the Inebriart Podcast Network. That's right, the Inebriart Podcast Network, folks. In addition to America's Hometown Horror, you can find the Inebriart Podcast, Bar Talk, Theme Park Legends, Retro Redoctopus, and Old Colony Cast. Head on over and give them a listen.